25 on the hands. Oh, good. There you are. Nice. Okay. Drop in my little corner. Good afternoon, everybody. It is Tuesday, and while I would say it's PGA DFS Tuesday, it's also NFT Tuesday, I guess. We're trying to get Rob Gronkowski's over here before we come on the show, trying to add to our portfolio. Well, at least I'm trying to add to mine, Eric. I don't know about you, how your luck is going in this department. It seems like you were in the 6,500 range. Looks like you're going to miss this one again. But what I will tell you is you're not going to miss the Prize Picks deposit match.
Wow.
Show this week. You're going to go over there. You got Tom Brady up this week. You got Jalen Hurts. That's Thursday. That's our next one. And here's what I want you to do for us here. Sponsor of our show, Prize Picks, their player props contest. Check them out if you haven't. We're going to go over some with you right now, though. Tom Brady, 301 yards, and Jalen Hurts, 275 yards. I want to start easy. You can pick anywhere between 2 and 5 guys. I'm going to start with 2. You give me the numbers. Over for Tom Brady or under, and over for Jalen Hurts or under. Let's start there, and then we'll finish it out.
Wait, what show is this? I forgot.
Yeah.
This is what we got to do. Thing and we're doing
the golf
another
isn't
thing.
up yet. The golf isn't up yet. What can I say?
My process doesn't start till Wednesday. You know, I have the Wednesday ownership show that I do with good old Laffy, with good old Makachevsky. But no, for me, looking at Tom Brady, I don't know how you're not positive on everything passing game of Tom Brady going forward that he ever does in life, except for NFTs, which I sold way too early when I got to it.
Oh, no, I don't even want to talk to you about that. I think
and then since then, the only one I've gotten is the Simone Biles common, the most common one of that. So the run good has not been there in terms of trying to get any of these elite ones. Like, you know, give me anything that isn't just the most common basic one of some of these. So yeah, hopefully this Gronk one, I've got a serious sweat going as we're talking, but love the over on Tom Brady. Jalen Hurts, I will say Philadelphia is passing the ball above expectation. I think for most people, there's been a lot of negative game scripts that they've been in. That's a big passing number. I'm not really sure what to think of it on the fly, but I'm guessing that would probably be an under. Just sounds a little bit hefty.
I'm actually with you here. And again, yes, this is the golf show, but we're still waiting for them to put up their golf contest, which they should be up pretty here soon. However, finishing off, we take the over on Tom Brady. We take the under on Jalen Hurts. And you're going to get a 2.25x payout on your buy-in. You get to choose the buy-in. So thank you to Prize Picks, sponsor of our show. Again, use promo code Awesemo for up to $100 deposit on your first match. So now we can talk a little golf here, of course, on this show. We get into that sometimes from now and again. And thank you for all you PGA DFS fans for joining us here today. And first, I had to throw that in there. I want to talk about last week. Sunday, Sung Jae. Am I starting off the dad jokes right away? Of course I am. But tell me about the blazing round from Sung Jae M that did win him his second PGA Tour event last week.
Well, yeah, it was heartbreaking, especially because my boy Sam Burns. I was in prime position going into Sunday, and a couple bad things happened, but the most of which being lower on Sung Jae, and everybody knows how much Sam Burns I had. For him to shoot over par on Sunday was just egregious. It was brutal, but also coming off a win, 8 straight rounds of golf, or 8 straight rounds, you know, back-to-back weeks. I feel like maybe we're going to give him a little bit of a pass there. Sung Jae was magnificent. And, you know, you can take it low on that golf course. It just really, I will say, nobody really had like standout rounds. It felt like to me, it felt like there were individuals. So for Sung Jae to go out there and do that, he just won the golf tournament. It was awfully fun to watch.
It was. I guess the only way that it wasn't fun to watch for me was the fact that my biggest ticket of the week happened to be on Matthew Wolff. Comes in second for the second straight year at this golf course. But is Matthew Wolff back?
Yeah. Well, okay. So you want to talk about doing the Tuesday show into the Wednesday show. My one take I had on Tuesday was I would have a boatload of sub 5% Matt Wolff. And then we started projecting him for around 15%. And I backed off. And it was awful. It was awful because I believed in him this week. I bet him as well. I didn't have as big of a ticket as you, but I had a ticket out on him. I liked this golf course for him, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to lower my DFS exposure because I have this ticket. And it just felt like it was too high of a number. He didn't even come in as highly owned as what I was expecting in a couple of those tournaments, like the mini max, a couple of like the $1, $3, some of that stuff. But I will say if I had played him in my big single entry stuff, it would have been a different week for me. Kind of a bummer to have the Sam Burns and Matt Wolff thing. If I just flip flopped on both of them, it would have been fun.
Yeah, I had my week really determined by a 10-footer from Jason Kokrak. His 36th hole.
Yeah.
Missed it. So did Webb Simpson. We'll talk about both of those guys here in a little bit. Before we move on, though, I wanted to ask you about Mark Leishman, man. 2 weeks in a row, he's come out of nowhere. Was it back-to-back top fives? I know he came third, I think, here last week, and then at the Safeway did it again. So do we play this guy, or did he come out of nowhere, got his 2 starts, and we'll see him again maybe, for Augusta or something like that?
So I'm not a big believer in hot streaks, but I'm a big believer that when things are clicking in golf as an athlete, like you just feel different. Like there's something that just kind of happens and you can see it. We've seen it with Mark Leishman in the past. I know that there was that FedEx run he went on. I know he just went lights out in Chicago and went super deep a couple years back. Yep. And there are times where Mike Leishman, you just kind of ride the wave. And I think we're going to just kind of start riding the wave here a little bit until it inevitably crashes. But the guy can just putt at such a ridiculous level. Hard to not like him in this spot. I mean, it's not like you're paying an egregious amount for him here, but I don't mind it. There's just so many guys that we're going to talk about. It's a no-cut event. We have a million different guys and narratives we can kind of draw on, starting all the way at the top. But I like Mark Leishman about as much as you can like somebody coming off of some really good results lately.
Yeah, let's talk about the Summit Club now. The host of this year's CJ Cup. Now, if you guys don't know, CJ Logistics, a Korean company, one of the biggest ones out there, a big sponsor of a lot of the Korean PGA Tour players, actually, in and of itself. So let's go over the Summit Club, and we're going to compare it to Shadow Creek. Now, you told me before the show you've played Shadow Creek, you've played Summerlin.
Yep.
You haven't played Summit Club, hadn't heard of it, but that's okay, because here's what I want to say. We're going to compare it. Okay, first, are they both in Vegas?
Yes.
Okay. Are they both par 72s?
They are.
Do they both measure just about 7,500 yards?
Yeah, 7,450 for this. Yeah, there you go.
And are the par 5s and par 4 measurements roughly the same on both courses?
Yes, and the par 3s are shorter.
And are they the same designer?
Tom Fazio, right?
Yeah, both the same designer. So is it just a reincarnation, or do you think that the Summit Club won't have as many, we'll call them tricks, as Shadow Creek did last year?
I mean, Shadow Creek, there are some interesting green complexes. There's some really long, strange spots where you have some interesting tee shots. I don't really know what to think. I do. So as you guys might know, I go on Google Map. So it's something my 2-man partner does for a lot of tournaments we get ready for when we're traveling around. If we can't play a practice round with work stuff, we'll look at a golf course on Google Earth and we'll kind of try to assess it from there. Looking at this one, there doesn't seem like there's that many difficult tee shots compared to Shadow Creek. Like Shadow Creek, there's a couple of demanding spots, especially 18, my God. But you have some spots where it looks like it's going to be wide open, and if driving doesn't matter, I mean, we're looking at something where this could be scary, scary deep.
Yeah, and again, just for reference, last year, -20 was the winning score. But beyond that, here's what I wanted to talk to you about. So we had 6 golfers score over 100 DFS points. Okay, but when you get to the 7th golfer, he scored 94. The winning golfer scored 130. So 40-point distribution between 1st and 6th. The distribution between 7th place and 50th place was 20 points. 50th scored 70 points last year. As I said, 7th scored about 93. So, I mean, does it even matter who you play on the outside as long as you get the top guys right? It seems like it doesn't. Now, granted, to win this, say, $15 GPP this week, you'll need probably all 6 who score over 100. However, say the $200 single entry, I mean, the possibilities seem endless given the point distribution of an event like this last year.
Yeah, and this just kind of goes down to no-cut events in general. I mean, we can probably see that to be similar across all of these no-cut events. You automatically create such separation by making a cut as opposed to missing a cut. When you don't have that, it's going to balance out more than likely over the course of 4 days. And with placing not mattering that much in 50th, 40th, 30th compared to what it is 1 through 7, I definitely see why that's the reason. And I wouldn't say that it doesn't matter who else you have, because we still play DFS game, which exists for PGA DFS golf fans, for all of these ownership plays that we have to kind of factor it in. We're still playing DFS, and we're still trying to maximize upside and targeting birdie makers, because just DraftKings scoring specifically, we're looking at just accumulating a ton of those birdies. And it doesn't matter if they end up in 15th place. They can work out optimally so long as they make a cut and make tons of those birdies, because the placement points between 10th and 15th aren't that egregiously different.
So I'm getting tweets here about the Rob Gronkowski NFT. Did you end up getting one there?
No, I'm upset. Okay. That's why I just threw a little barb out, because I'm tilt. This is an absolute tilt space now. How am I running so bad with these things? Everybody keeps posting how much they're winning. And also, I mean, selling a Tom Brady was a bad idea, but like, what in the world? What do I get?
I didn't know you even got one. Was it a signed one?
Yeah. So, I mean, I posted it on my Twitter. It wasn't one of the signed ones there. I had to go back through because I thought it was one of the signed ones. And fortunately it wasn't, because Greg Ehrenberg let me know that I would have been giving up 5 digits and I probably wouldn't be on the show.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about all that. Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't a signed one. I would have definitely made fun of you. Now let's talk a little bit more tilt space. Let's go to CGA Cup. Talk 78 players. You already mentioned no cut. However, 5 players from the KPGA, the Korean PGA Tour. I'm gonna do my best. Han Byul Kim. Boy, Joyeon Tom Kim. Now, maybe you've heard of Tom Kim before. 19-year-old prospect out of Korea.
Nope.
Tried to get on the PGA Tour. Has made a couple of cuts, actually. Decent player.
No, never heard of him.
Okay. Jae Kyung Lee, Yosop Xiao, Shang Hun Shin. Those are the 5 from the Korean PGA. Okay. I did my best. Don't make fun of me.
Honestly, the best is all you could do there. And it wasn't good enough. But I absolutely loved listening to that. That was incredible. So I looked at your run sheet. I looked at your run sheet and I started Googling some of these names. And
yeah, give me something.
The tournaments they played, I have no idea how to assess any of them. If you want to play them, best of luck to you. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. 3 Korean players from the official World Golf Rankings. This one I can get. Byung-Hun An and Sung-Hoon Kang from the PGA. And then it looks like Sung-Hyun Kim from another Korean PGA Tour player that got into the event. Then we get 10 sponsor invites. And it's just so funny that we've come to this point where Jason Day and Ricky Fowler, throw in Tommy Fleetwood, all need a sponsor invite to play in this event. Who surprises you the most on that list?
Out of everybody on the list, it sounds dumb, but Adam Scott. I mean, Adam Scott, it's strange to look at. Fleetwood, we know how bad he's been for the last year. Going through Adam Scott's last year, I was shocked how bad he was, because in my brain he's still Adam Scott. It's
and like strokes gained putting was good. So
yeah, and his ball strike, his driving has been egregious. So maybe that's another green light special here in this spot for Adam Scott. But it's kind of interesting. I mean, Tommy Fleetwood, Jason Day, Ricky Fowler, we know how the struggles that's existed there. Ian Poulter has been pretty good, but it doesn't surprise me. He's not like top tier world class player. Gary Woodland has a major within the last 3 years. So that one's pretty surprising to me as well. I guess 2.5 years ago was Pebble Beach. So there you go. Hatton, surprising. Justin Rose, very surprising. But I think out of everybody, Adam Scott, I just always think of as being steadily a top, 35, 40, 50 player in the world. And maybe I need to think about that differently.
Well, if his driving is going to be, say, of what we saw a couple of years ago from, say, someone like Jordan Spieth, it doesn't matter how good his irons are or how good of a putter he has become, which is the weirdest thing to say, because a couple of years ago, I mean, the guy couldn't make 3-footers, but that is the way it is. Now let's talk about some of our biggest plays of the week. And of course, when we're talking about supply chains, you need a warehouse. Those are the first thing that you have to have. You got to house everything. Now, you're not going to have a lot of warehouses here, Eric. You're going to only have a couple, because it's pointless to have all warehouses. You need a lot of other things that go with this supply chain. So let's talk about some of the best players here this week. Dustin Johnson, let's start off right at the top. Could be playing the best golf out of anybody. Now, we don't know exactly what happened at the Ryder Cup. However, he looks damn good. He's got 4 top 10s in his last 6 starts, but 2 other missed cuts. So where do you assess an 11,300 Dustin Johnson this week?
I don't know. Like, this is absurd. I was floored, first of all, that he was the favorite, the betting favorite in this golf tournament. I was floored. He was the most expensive player in the golf tournament, because all we've seen is him just go 5-0 in the Ryder Cup. And don't get me wrong, Dustin Johnson at the height of his powers, we know is like the guy. Like you don't want to screw around with this, but it's match play. You could flip coins. And I don't want to talk about this from a true probability standpoint, but like it can be 2 or 3 holes that can be the difference maker in a Ryder Cup match. You could go up against, some weaker teams, which I think that they did over the course of their the four matches that Dustin Johnson did in twosomes. You can rely on your partner. And obviously DJ, I think, played some pretty darn good golf from what it looked like, but we haven't seen him in a stroke play event really put it on anybody here in a long time. And I just don't see it. I don't see it. But if you told me that he went out and rode some momentum from the Ryder Cup and you want to build off that narrative, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. It's Dustin Johnson. But if the ownership isn't there, I think you got to be able to go there. But at 11.7% ownership on this slate, I don't think that I could possibly play him at 11.3 and justify it.
What about going to one of his partners in the 2-ball who hasn't had a top 25 since the Open Championship, which he did win? But at 10,600, I'm going to guess you're going to tell me Colin Morikawa, who is a member at this golf course, is also very expensive.
Wait, Colin Morikawa is a member here?
Yeah, he lives in Vegas. This is where he plays out of. He talked about it today. Him and Maverick McNeely. Now, McNeely's probably a member at any golf course he wants to be a member at, given that his dad, sold one business for over billions. And
his life's okay.
He does.
Yeah, his life's fine.
But I do know that Morikawa, I did see, is a member. So is McNeely. Let's just start off with talking about where Morikawa's game is, and then you can tell me if him being a member here makes you want to play him a little bit.
First of all, I mean, I researched this for a couple hours this morning, and I still didn't run into that for whatever reason. So
that's what you got me for.
Yeah, I know. Thank God. Colin Morikawa, 10-8. He's the best iron player on planet Earth. You should be playing him when there's not that much ownership, which there isn't, at 10.4%. I really like him this week. We're talking about iron play and putting, which is what some of these scoring fests really come down to. I mean, Colin Morikawa, if golf courses play easy, a la the Open, the guy is dangerous as all hell, and you need to be playing a ton of him. Plus, my fiance is from La Cañada Flint Ridge, and he's from La Cañada Flint Ridge. They went to the same high school. Ride the fiance narrative. They went to the same high school. So
how about at the same time? He's 24.
No, Mellie's
older. Yeah,
she's a little bit older. Yeah. Sorry, threw her name out into the atmosphere. Can't do that again.
Well, her and I are on good terms. I can tell you that already, and I haven't even met her.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, chat's going to take that different. My we have side. 41 people here in chat that are about to come in. Guns and
wonder what's going on. No, I'm just saying she's on my side. What we had a little debate earlier here before the show, and I was correct, and she backed me up. You thought it. I was right.
True.
Anyways, that's just
we're going to talk about it later. No, I'm kidding. We're not. She wins automatically.
Now, all right.
Love you.
Here's the thing. Morikawa does play out of this golf course. I can send you the link where you had to read the review journal of 2020 to see it. But does that change your mind? Honest to God, with somebody that's a home course, you and I know that we play better at our home course. So does that give a little leg up? Let me put a little more tidbit to this. Jason Kokrak was one of the only golfers that consistently played Shadow Creek last year because he's hooked up with MGM, said that he played it over a dozen times, ended up winning the event. Are we going to see that here with Morikawa if he putts well this week?
If he putts well, and there you go. So that's going to be what I just point to flat out. I think for most amateur golfers, like for you, for me, I'm a +3 right now. I haven't touched a club forever, but it's like, if I go out and play Soul Park in Ojai, which is the golf course I probably play the most right now, it's like an hour and 15-minute drive from LA. You get up there, and if I play against an average person, yes, I'm going to have a massive advantage. But when you're talking about the best players in the world, it's not like they haven't seen this golf course 3 times leading in. They've played it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yep. They are the best players in the world. The difference between Colin Morikawa and everybody else in this field is so minute, but we continue to kind of harp on their tendencies and on, trying to narrow down when they're going to go off in certain spots, when we should be utilizing them. And a lot of it is just based on the way that other people like them. And based on the field. That's, why we talk about ownership as much as what we do. That's why we have these shows. So for me, I get Colin Morikawa being a guy that, yes, it's his home course, but because the weak part of his golf game is the thing that's the most important to be good at in order to go low in some of these events, it's a complete crapshoot at a certain point. And it's not like any of these guys are going to be struggling with any kind of difficult golf shots or any kind of blind tee shots or anything where these green complexes look that severe. They just don't. So for me, I think that there's a definite advantage of having it be your golf course, but compared to what we would think of it, like for you and me against a random, other golfer of our ability or our skill level, it's not nearly that much on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Another reason why we do those shows is so we can tell you about the cool tools we've got here available at Awesemo and Awesemo.
Dude, are you going pro in reads? What are you doing today? You are out of your mind in the zone.
What can I say? I got this triple shot espresso from La Colombe. Anybody that knows La Colombe knows
delicious.
It is absolutely delicious. It's the best canned coffee beverage that is out there. Anyways, the MLB playoffs are rolling on. Crazy stuff happened in the Red Sox game. I didn't watch a baseball game all year, but I like playoff baseball. I like the Red Sox. Saw that Hunter Renfroe play, and I'm like, man, I live in Tampa. I'm still rooting for the Red Sox. So this is a funny little thing that happened. In any case, our player projections for today's games are free, and our top golfers tool, which goes into a little bit about Alex's simulations and so much more. You got to check this tool out. It is great. It gives a wealth of information that is also free this week. And of course, if you want to join us for all of our Awesemo Plus tools, PGA Strategy Show is your promo code. You're going to get 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus. So come on and join us. We've got millionaire makers on our staff. We've got Alex Baker, the king himself. We've got us all here. And have you been doing shows with Neil Orfeld? He is a gem, man. Gotta love that
great.
Guy. So,
yeah, he's fantastic. And we built a lineup live on air on Thursday that ended up winning
the Millie.
Won the Millie ticket for the Tournament of Champions. That was fun.
Gotta love it. I was following along that. That was pretty great. So, all right, a couple more guys that we would consider in this price range. Because I know you don't want me to say warehouses because you don't like that, but that's okay.
No, it's just that we went from Vegas and like really, really fun themes and gambling last week.
Supply chain management.
I'm going to take you
through the supply chain.
And as a finance major in Iowa State, I'm having flashbacks to some classes that I definitely tried to hit the snooze button in. So
that was my goal, man, to teach you about the supply chain all over again. So a couple more guys. Jordan Spieth, one of the few golfers that I think there's about 15 that have not played yet this year in the first three events, but we saw him at the Ryder Cup, and I think both you and I agree it's probably the worst we've seen him putt in a really long time. So he can go through these type of things in his career. Is his ball striking back and good enough to carry him this week into a top 15, or do you think the putting is going to end up holding him back? And I mean, we need a top 10 from him this week to pay off salary. It's not like he's 8,800.
I mean, we're comparing Whistling Straits. That's the other part about the Dustin Johnson thing that kind of blows my mind. We're comparing Whistling Straits to this golf course. Not the same thing. No. So
although driving on each course could be just as easy, though. That's the thing.
That's true. Whistling Straits has some wide open spots, and it came down to iron play. Look at Morikawa. DJ had like stripe show too. So, and again, the eye test told you Jordan Spieth hit a lot of quality iron shots under pressure there. This is so wide open. I mean, for me, Jordan Spieth, if you just told me he went out and just putted well, I'd want a ton of him because the iron play is the thing that he's always been able to kind of get in these waves with. And that for me is always kind of like the big indicator. Everybody points to his driving, that he was such a weak driver of the golf ball and then it came back. But like for me, as you go through the tallying up the box score, look at his summer. His summer was just accumulating crazy amount of strokes gain approach. 7.4 at Valexis Terrell Open W, 4.9 at the Byron Nelson top 10, PGA 1.7, 1.9, Memorials 0.3, US Open 4.5. I mean, we're talking about a run of just stellar, ridiculous iron play, going even to the AT&T Pro-Am 4, 7.8 at the Waste Management. That's going to be what helps you in some of these golf tournaments where you have to take it low. And so for me, like the Tour Championship was the worst he hit his irons like ever, but he was kind of uninvolved. I think a lot of those guys at a certain point were just uninvolved because it was so hard to make up ground there. I'm in a 20th, the Tour Championship. Who cares about that? For the most part, if he flips the switch there, awesome. He's getting about what the ownership I would expect. I do like him more than playing a Xander Schauffele, who's literally double the ownership. I just think Jordan Spieth would actually be better. So this might be the first time ever where I'm with you being able to roster him.
How about going down one player to Rory McIlroy, who, he's playing okay. He had an okay season. Didn't really play good at the Ryder Cup at all. I mean, hey, he got sat in one of the rounds, so obviously not in great form. Maybe the Ryder Cup sparked him to play good golf again. But at 10-1, little peek behind the curtains, he is the highest projected golfer from our projections early on this week, which is now then going to push into his ownership. So is it saying, hey, look, Spieth versus McIlroy in a vacuum, double the ownership, one guy? Where do you go here between those two?
I mean, that just has to change, right? Like that's way too high for Rory based on.
I would think so. I would think it would come in more between 15 and 20% rather than the 24% right now. Yeah.
I don't know what the sentiment is. I mean, this is obviously when you get Rory as the 6th highest priced golfer in a field, it's just going to kind of stick out like a sore thumb. And, he played okay during the stretch, kind of coming down the end, got the 4th at the BMW at that shootout event. And Rory is somebody that whenever he putts well, he's going to be in contention here. I don't know. I don't see it at that ownership. I don't think I would be wanting to pull the trigger on him there. I mean, a lot of these guys, it's going to just kind of being able to draw, as I said before, drawing whatever narratives you want. And for me, Rory McIlroy, the thing that I always felt like he's the best at is he's the best driver of the golf ball on planet Earth over a 5, 6, 7 year sample size. Him and DJ, in whichever order you want to put them, 1, 2. And that's going to be neutralized out here. So I think I would probably be going elsewhere, but what are you going to do with him?
Yeah, it's going to be tough for me if I really look at ownership here and see that the 3 lowest owned above 10K are going to be Johnson, Morikawa, Spieth, and all 3 I'm good with playing. And if that's the case, I'm going to be under the field on McIlroy. I'm going to be under the field on Xander, and probably right on, and we haven't talked about this last guy, right on the same ownership as the field of Justin Thomas. Nothing wrong with him, but at 11-1, I think I can get a lot of the same stuff out of Jordan Spieth that I can Justin Thomas, except for maybe a little win equity. And that's what you have to factor in for me, is determining if the lineup has enough win equity in it, or if I need to go up and get a Justin Thomas over Jordan Spieth. But for me, it's probably those 4, definitely under on Xander and Rory at this point.
Any Jim Mackay narrative you want to draw on Justin Thomas now that he's making his official debut? I mean, he's caddied for him before, but anything a win you could draw off of that? Yeah, in a W. Well,
let me ask you this: because I looked, was this a health thing for Mike was the caddy, I believe, for Justin Thomas?
I don't know.
I couldn't find anything. It at all. Yeah, I actually did spend the time to research it and couldn't find anything about it. So for me, yeah, I'm okay with this caddy change. Obviously, he's done it before and it's been in a win. So Bones is obviously a fantastic caddy. I don't know if it'll push Thomas over the top for this event. Maybe it will.
If Jim Mackay can help him read the ball on the green better, Yahtzee. Like that's really what I'm saying, is that like that's what I want to point at right now.
He's been so bad at putting, though. You're right.
That's what I'm saying, is that if Jim Mackay can somehow make him confident on the greens or can see something and help him with his reads, that's the one thing that I think a caddy can do on the PGA Tour to basically help their player is possibly find some reads. Yeah, they give them clubbing them, and it's kind of in the utility with that. But look at Phil Mickelson over 20-something years. I mean, it was putting. It was short game and putting. And can Jim Mackay be a difference maker to just even give him some confidence, infuse something different in him? As you said, one time, one win. So I kind of want to go back to it.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. Before we move on, I just saw chat. Mr. Andrews 93 said Blue Bottle New Orleans over La Colombe. What am I missing here? Because
it's better.
Responded to it. What
Blue Bottle's incredible.
Do I need to look it up then after, because I actually just ordered it off Amazon now because none of my local grocery stores have it. So
wait, you just ordered it while we're on the show?
No. I ordered La Colombe off my Amazon. I might go order this Blue Bottle now that you guys are talking about it on Amazon right now.
I just know it's a coffee shop here in LA, and I've gotten it a couple times. It's literally just a blue bottle for their symbol, and then you find it and you go get it, and it's delicious.
Is it like draft latte like we're talking about with La Colombe, or?
Yeah, no? It's not. So, I mean, I don't know about the latte situation, but their coffee is really, really good. I just get like black coffee.
Okay, fair enough.
Like Starbucks in a cup right here. Little worse than what you got.
Talking about a little worse, not a little worse, way worse.
Jesus.
Victor Hovland's short game last week. I assure you, we could have done better, my friend. I promise. I know you like that transition now that you heard what I said. What do you make of that, given that his ball striking stats looked good enough to come in the top 10?
I don't have any analysis because I'm floored by you today. This is just brilliance. I'm watching Jordan just knock. He just in the zone here. Victor Hovland. He always does this though, right? Isn't this just the Victor Hovland thing?
Last week was even his worst of his career.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, it was also, it was abysmal short game. I mean, 8.9 is not a number you see very often, but
especially on the losing side. Yeah.
Yeah, it's atrocious. Hey, he made a cut. That's exciting. Get a new wedge. Get a new 60. He should just get one new club and just hit it everywhere. Different golf course maybe can help him mix it up. Sometimes, man, you know how it is with putter or a wedge. You can just get on a golf course and it just doesn't feel right, especially for somebody where that is by far the weakest part of his golf game. We'll see what I'll react a little bit to what the field's doing there. I mean, everything's pretty flat now from here on out. There's really nobody in the 20% plus range, so you can kind of play your guys. It's going to be hard for me to click on Victor Hovland when Sam Burns is right there. Like I'm going back to the well on my dude. So that's kind of my major concern. But Victor Hovland, I think I'll still have a little bit.
Before we get to your dude, I want to ask you, because I asked you this exact question about your dude last week. Sam Burns 2 in a row, and through 36 holes, it looked really good.
Through 54, it looked pretty good.
54, it looked good. So can Sung J M, obviously CJ Logistics biggest ambassador, can M make it 2 in a row?
No. This is different. I mean, there's some really, really top class players here, and winning on the PGA Tour is extremely difficult as is. Doing it back to back, asking Sun JM to go out and shoot a ridiculous round. Now, I'm not taking anything away from him, but 62, I mean, 63, two
Best
just
closing round we've
sublime rounds in the middle of that 65-70 in rounds 2 and 3. I mean, there's nothing you can take away from him. He's also a guy that it looked like a putter is just starting to go for him here a little bit. He's kind of middle of the field in putting as is. And if that gets going, I mean, we've talked about him a ton the last couple of weeks, going back to the FedEx Cup playoffs. He's so consistent and he's good at everything. Like he's just pretty solid. I find it hard to believe he's ever going to be a guy who's going to burn you in a spot. The last missed cut was the Memorial, and he's just kind of been on a nice little run here. But Sanderson Farms 31st. I mean, the Shriners win came with some seriously nice iron play coming off of back-to-back weeks of terrible iron play, going back to the Tour Championship and then the Sanderson Farms. But the putter was just flipped. And the putter 5.5 strokes gained putting, for me, that's always kind of been a little bit of the bugaboo, that center shafted thing that just doesn't necessarily always work for him. If it's going to flip, everything else he does is just solid. So I wouldn't blame anybody who wanted to go there, but even at 13.1%, you can get 8% Hideki. Sign me up for that.
How about Tony Finau, who's coming in right in the middle of Hideki and M in terms of ownership? And my note on it was actually probably a reasonable price and reasonable ownership to go along with it. So if you see him, say, opening the floodgates and winning this week, I think it's a good position to be in. But do you think Finau can do it? Obviously made a name for himself out here in Vegas. Didn't go to college, turned pro, did the whole big break thing, really made his name in cash games out here. So does he bring the Vegas scene and continue this good stretch of golf, or are we all done with the Finau run?
I don't know. I'm probably the worst gauge of Tony Finau on planet Earth. Obviously, he won the Northern Trust. I didn't have him there. The BMW was fine. The Tour Championship, we haven't seen him since that early September, so it's been
Ryder Cup was okay.
Month.
Looks good.
Ryder Cup was fine.
Nothing but spectacular. Yeah.
I never know how to assess him because we always think of him also as kind of an elite guy off the tee, and it can regress here in some spots. And if off the tee really doesn't matter, I mean, we got to see him just gain a ton of strokes gained approach, and hitting it far is never bad on any golf course. But his putting has been so wildly erratic. It's way up or it's way down. It seems like he's one of the guys who just either has it or doesn't every single week. And it's hard for me to get a gauge on what to do with him ever. So I'm probably going to shy away just because he's somebody that I never feel like I need to have, except for the 1 week he just went nuts and finally put up a W. But we've seen him just put himself in the mix time and time again. Pretty easy golf course. He does have the ability to go crazy low, just like all these guys do for the most part. But Tony Finau, he's fine. I just don't think I'm going to make a stand there.
Speaking of a guy that can hit the ball really far, but also can just take himself out of a tournament with the best of them. And I think this guy is the creme de la creme of that group of players. It's Brooks Koepka. So through one round last week, his strokes gained off the tee looked so far better than everybody else. I'm like, oh, he's got a chance to get himself in the tournament. Friday morning comes along, birdies 3 of his first 4 holes, picks up another one before his 6th hole. He's 4 under through 6, and then the sales ran down, and he finished basically in dead DFL. I mean, made the cut, but clearly you could see he did not care after he made, I think it was just a bad bogey after being 4 under through 6, and literally took himself out of the tournament. All his stats looked terrible. Nothing looked good. That means it's a stay away this week. Or are we going to get the Brooks Koepka that cares? And 9,700 and a win is coming.
Hey, to get a check, he's got to play 4 days, right? So
no, not here this week.
You just tee it up once and then you get a check at DFL.
You get the Daniel Berger check if you really want to go back.
You tee it off, you take your money on the bottom end, you hit the 1 tee shot and you walk off
away. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a Brooks Koepka thing.
Yeah. And Brooks Koepka would do something like that. For Brooks Koepka, I mean, we know the story. We do. It's obvious. You just have to box score watch. He's either all in on a golf tournament or it's a miscut. And it just happens at a ridiculous pace. He's either interested because he's in the mix. He will never be the guy who grinds out a top 20 for you. It's just, that's not in his nature. So accept it, move on with it. But put him in the Tony Finau bucket where I never get him right. I don't know what to do with him yet, but it looks like, you talk about the class of player, you get him at 6% coming off of a week where it looked good until it didn't. 68, 67, and then 72, 73. I mean, it was complete disinterest for him on the weekend. And that's really the only way to break it down. He's going to have to play 4 rounds here. I would just assume he's going to keep going there. And I'm going to probably be over if it is 6%, if that actually ends up being the number. If it starts trailing up to 10, 12%, that's, again, where when you're making 150 lineups, you want to start making some bigger stands and you don't want to be at the field on everybody. And it's easy for me to hit eject when that's double digits next to him. But at 6%, God, it's really hard not to be way over that.
Somebody who's the polar opposite of Brooks that will grind out a top 20, that will stay in an event, even if he bogeys the first couple of holes on the weekend. It's Louis Oosthuizen. And he is part of what I would call my distribution and delivery, seeing that he is sponsored by UPS. Bam, got another one in there. Love that. But he had a bad week, still grinded out a good finish, T14, over 100 points. So, Erica, I think we go back to him this week. I see nothing wrong with Louis. I'd rather play him over Brooks.
I mean, he's my boy. I mean, so you want to talk about why it's going to be harder to get to tons of Brooks. And also, I think Brooks Koepka, as we get closer to lock, that ownership's going to go up. And I'm just kind of assuming it. Yeah. And I always want to play Louis Oosthuizen. He's the best putter on planet Earth until the last 3 weeks, which I don't know what's going on, but he's still top 15 because he was God with his irons. And you want to go God mode with your irons. And I'm looking for that putting to start regressing, considering, I don't know, he went through a streak of like 20 tournaments in a row where he was gaining strokes putting, and now he's lost in the last 3. I don't know. I think that there's some positive regression for a guy who's just shown that he can get it done on the greens time and time again. So, I mean, with these irons, the way that they're in form now, he's gained strokes with his irons in every single tournament since the waste management in February. That is dumb. That means you play Louis Oosthuizen.
You're going to play him in the $15 GPP. Mike just brings up in chat saying, hey, look, top 20 doesn't do anything for us in the $15. And he's probably right.
Yes.
But in the $200 single entry at 9,300, 100 points and a top 20 would do us great at the top of our lineup if we can hit, a couple of the other lower price guys.
Not only that, but like Louis is somebody capable of one of those, just make a ton of birdies. Yeah, it's ridiculous. He could just outperform his finishing spot. I mean, just going to make a ton of birdies, and the putter gets hot for a round, and we can draw that for a number of these guys, but Louis does it at such an elite level when he's on. I mean, we're talking about 7.1 strokes game putting, 5.8 strokes game putting, and then approach 7.7, 4.8. Those are all within the last 6 months. Those are just ridiculous events to have happen on a golf course. So I'm willing to just fire it off, considering that's the way that I kind of want to build some of my lineups towards those two specialties on an easier golf course with super wide fairways and forgiving spots. So Louis Oosthuizen signed me up for all of it.
One last thing on Louis, and I'll even throw in Kevin Na in this. Something that I appreciate as a DFS gamer. they have been very kind to us as of recently, knock on wood. When they withdraw, they're doing it way before lock. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, given that I've been playing this for 6 years and I've been burned so many times from the pregame withdrawal, post-lock, of course. That's just how it happens. But we are in a good run of that. Kevin Nod did it to us last week. Gave us plenty of time. Louis, the last time he did it, plenty of time again. So with that being said, I don't really have a concern playing Louis in the withdrawal. I used to, but I don't anymore. I think he'll give us plenty of time if he doesn't want to play this week. So a couple more guys in this range that we can chat about here. Hideki Matsuyama, what's the ownership have to look like for you to play him? I know you said projected 8% right now. Is that a good spot you're in or still a little high? We know he's going to make a lot of putts to win.
Yeah, no, I'm in at that number. He had an okay first round, and then the wheels came off there. And Hideki, we know that the irons, they can spike at any given point. For me, playing the ownership game with some of these guys who can just be sublime ball strikers and ride a hot putter, Hideki makes a lot of sense, I think. And that's kind of just what I'm looking at in some of these ranges. For me, it's just going to be a big chunk fade with the current ownership we have. And I'll be able to cover some more with Ben tomorrow and have more of a concrete idea of what I want to do. But Xander Schauffele, it's over 20%. No, thank you. And then Rory McIlroy over 20%. No, thank you. And Dustin Johnson over 11% as the most expensive golfer in the field. No, thank you. So that's 50% of the ownership, the cumulative ownership that I'm going to be avoiding in these ranges. That gives me a lot of access to be at 20, 25, 30% of some of these guys, especially a guy like Hideki, who, not just talking about the Masters, WGCs, or the Olympics where he almost medaled. We just see it time and time again where he's going to have rounds where he just shoots you out of it. And kind of shoots himself in the foot. But over the course of 4 rounds on an easy golf course, I just think the upside is immense for him to make a ton of birdies in the process. So I feel like getting a guaranteed 4 out of him is better than getting a guaranteed 4 out of a lot of other dudes in this range.
Tom T in our chat right now looks like he's giving us a thread here. And it looks like it's starting with he's starting saying the highest ranked Korean descent player from the Asian Tour Order of Merit who was chosen to play in this event. He then goes on to tell us that his last 5 starts prior to the fortnight was really good, but he hasn't told us who the player is yet. So stay tuned. We'll get it here very shortly. Couple of more players while we wait for him to tell us who that is that I want to talk about in this range is Abraham Ancer, Scotty Scheffler, and Harris English. They all 3 have something in common. They all missed the cut last week. Do you want to play any of them? I'll tell you who I'd like to play first out of the 3. I'm not playing Harris English anymore. I think the run is done. I'm done doing that unless he's below 8,000. Okay, so we'll start with that right away. Abraham Ancer looked so bad on his approaches last week that maybe it's broken. Probably not, but I can't get behind it now because of that. I'd rather play Scotty Scheffler, who for some reason is terrible at TPC Summerlin, but did put a very nice charge in on Friday. He had a ton of birdies. I think he ended up with 9 birdies in the round. I'll go back to Scotty Scheffler of the 3 if I have to. Are you aligned with me there, or would you like to go back to Ancer?
I mean, I always love Scotty Scheffler. I'm a mark.
I figured there. Yep.
Yeah, I'm a mark for him. And yeah, the Shriners didn't look very good, but same thing with Abraham Ancer. That's going to be the main question mark I have, because we know the elite upside he can have with the irons. It was the opposite last week, but a 2-round sample size coming off of a month off. I don't want to overemphasize anything that we saw last week, either for the positive or the negative. Sung JM, somebody that obviously 63 and a 61 on the card in 2 of those rounds. It's ridiculous, but I don't want to overanalyze that going to this spot. Obviously, it bodes well for him. But in the same way, Abraham Ancer, we know we can flip it, but Scotty Scheffler, just so consistent. I think I'll probably have the most of him in the range. I'm not really sure, but we'll kind of see where ownership ends up landing for both of them, which is such a cop-out answer. But I mean, for me, Scotty Scheffler is the better play week in, week out either way. But Abraham Ancer has so much upside. He's proven it, where he can just really, really like get you those top 10s and really kind of solidify quite a few birdies when he gets hot with the irons. And that happens more times than it doesn't.
Agreed there. Also got a nice piece of news for you here. Nobody is coming on after us, meaning you do not have to go to another show tonight. Jordan does not have to produce another one. And also, by the way, I have to have an aside. I have an aside to my aside. Chat brought up that we need a producer cam. And they couldn't be more on point. I need people to see the reactions of my dad jokes from Jordan Klein so badly. So we're going to work on that. I promise you. And then also I was going to say, we're going to probably be able to go a minute or two over here this week. We don't have to rush out of here.
A 3-hour show.
Yeah, 3-hour show. If we really want to. Could bring up all 78 guys. I could give you the background story on Hannibal Lecter Kim. Hannibal Yole Kim. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry. Yeah. Anyways, did you like that one? That was good. I had that one before. Yeah.
That was like mildly weird. I don't really know how to analyze that. Jordan
I'm telling you, I'm pronouncing it correctly too.
He's like, oh my God, this is where Jason gets canceled on air.
Tommy Fleetwood, speaking of getting canceled, is the same price as Webb Simpson.
Why would that be getting canceled? What did Tommy Fleetwood do?
He hasn't played good golf in who knows how long.
Oh, okay. So canceled from the PGA DFS streets.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I just missed something. It's been a 24 hours, my friend.
No missing anything on Tommy Fleetwood. He seems like a genuine character, so I can't imagine we'll cancel him, but we need to cancel him for PGA DFS purposes.
PGA DFS fans.
So are you playing Tommy Fleetwood?
No, I'm not playing Tommy Fleetwood.
Are you playing Webb Simpson?
Fleetwood? No, I'm not playing Webb Simpson. Hang on. Have you ever seen? God, we are going off the rails now. Have you ever seen the Weird Al Yankovic Albuquerque song?
I know Weird Al. You're gonna have to tell me the Albuquerque one. I don't know it.
Like when he goes into the donut shop, he's like, "Do you have any apple fritters?" No, we're out of apple fritters. Do you have any?
Know that one. I'm sorry.
No, we're out of that. That's kind of what I felt. I don't want Fleetwood. I don't want Webb Simpson. Okay. I don't want Harris English. I don't want this upper AK range outside of Mark Leishman. And somehow he's like the lowest owned of the grouping. So cool. I'll take it.
I'm telling you, it seems like nobody knows that the guy is on back-to-back top fives right now, which is insane. Cameron Smith, country mate of Leishman. My notes on him were overpriced, maybe under-owned. I don't know. We haven't seen him since Tour Championship, so 9,200 does seem expensive.
9,200 is a lot. Yeah. Cameron Smith, 15%. That's such an automatic pass. It's ridiculous.
Yep. I figured you would.
We know he can putt the lights out of it. I don't want to try to target that.
All right. Under Leishman now, Ty Hatton and Shane Lowry both looked garbo at the Ryder Cup. Lowry maybe had a little bit of things. Even maybe more so garbo was Paul Casey. I mean, they all looked awful. Casey looked awful last week. It's a full fade for me in this range. The mid sevens are a way better spot for me than this low 8K range.
He was pretty uninspired last week too. So it's hard for me with Paul Casey specifically. Yep. I don't really know what to think of it. I'm curious. Ben has a pretty good gauge for that dude. And maybe it's just because he plays him every single week. And eventually a guy like of that quality is going to turn it on. But I think I would rather play Hatton. I think out of anybody there, and again, Hatton is just going to be unowned, and that's part of the appeal of it there too. Shane Lowry.
But do you think that these guys are better plays than Joaquin Niemann coming off a decent week?
And that's where you have to kind of compare it. The 8K range is just not very strong as a whole. I don't like the 8K range, but I'm trying to make a narrative or a case that I can for somebody there. I think Hatton, at least, if you were to just see him kind of go out and turn it on here, it wouldn't surprise anybody. And iron play, I'm just going to keep going back to it. Like for me, Tyrrell Hatton, 12th in strokes gained approach here out of the field. So that's a pretty high number, pretty flat around everything, can get the putter hot. I think he would be kind of my preferred play in this bottom 8K range. Cause again, nobody's going to be going that direction. He just doesn't grade out very well, but we know that kind of upside exists with him. The Palmetto, where you see 6.9 strokes gained with the approach, WGC 4.6, 9.2 at the CJ Cup last season at Shadow Creek. If we want to point to that, where he got third. So why not a little bit of Tyrrell Hatton?
I guess I can get into a little Tyrrell Hatton, more so than I can Patrick Reed. Listen, I wouldn't wish double pneumonia on a worst enemy here, but it's clear that he is not healthy. It's clear that he hasn't been able to come back and find his game since being sick. And I don't know when we'll see it again. And $8,000, I know it's a no cut, but it's not getting me interested this week.
Nope. I have no further notes. Patrick Reed is not on my board.
Kevin Na had the withdraw, said he's hurt, had a miscut after that, win. So we're just going to wait on Kevin Na as well, right?
I don't know. I mean, everybody's a good play at a certain ownership, but the 13.2%, I'm sure not going to play him. There's just not a chance in hell, but I don't think he'll be that. We'll see tomorrow. Again, there's a lot that needs to be determined here. And Kevin Na, I would be shocked coming off of an injury, coming off of a rib injury where we just don't really know what's going to happen there. I think that, if there's anything, I feel, I would definitely be way low on that number. But if that thing starts trailing to around, I don't know what the cutoff point would be, 5-6%, where I would start trampolining on the other side of it. But as of right now, that's a definite no from me, dog.
All right. The next 10 golfers I have listed, I'm in on all of them. Now, determining which ones are going to be the highest allocations, ownership will go into it a little bit, of course, and some other things. But do you want me to go one by one, or do you want me to give them to you rapid fire?
Rapid fire. Let's go.
Okay. Homa, Siwoo, Sergio, Joaquin, Aaron Wise, Harold Varner, Maverick McNeely, Taylor Gooch, Charlie Hoffman, Russell Henley. I'm in on all of them. I think they all present good value this week. I think that one of those, maybe two of them, end up in that top 10 scoring, which will be valuable, obviously, for your DFS lineups. Of those 10, who do you like the best?
It's weird to say it. I think I like Taylor Gooch at 7,200 the most. Charlie Hoffman as well. Both of these guys on the bottom end. Maverick McNeely, it's strange to me, out of the course of this field. And again, I'm a mark for him, and I know the putting upside can be there. He's 58th in strokes gained approach over his last 50 rounds out of this field. And that is a shocking number to me. Going to be harder for me to want to click on him as much this week, but this 7K range is absolutely loaded. You're right. But this lower 7Ks opens up some access to some JT builds, some Sam Burns, which I'm just going to be jamming again. So prepare yourself, Eric, for more heartbreak. Actually, no, it was great 2 weeks ago. But I think you're dead on here. This is kind of the spot you want to be overweight to. Max Homa makes some sense here. Not very good around the greens, but who cares? He's top 20 in strokes gained approach amongst this field as well. Siwoo makes some sense. Sergio Garcia is the one guy that it's hard for me, coming off of a Ryder Cup, if you want to, look at that narrative, but misses the cut at the Sanderson Farms. You can maybe write that off. Was playing well leading up to it on the number.
Yeah.
So whatever. Sergio just isn't really a guy that I want to be invested in. Is that somebody you're actually making a stand with?
No.
Okay, good.
My notes are sure a little because I want to play Aaron Wise. There's nothing wrong with him, and they're pricing him down. His 15 to 20 feet putting in his first three events have looked night and day compared to last year. And he puts almost every iron shot within 125 yards. He's putting within 20 feet right now. He's playing superb golf, and he's getting confidence with the putter. No need for me to fade him in a no-cut event. There's three guys that are kind of in the Aaron Wise bucket. The last two are not playing as good, but I want to bring them up in a little bit. So I'd probably go Wise, Neiman, Varner, Hoffman, Henley as my top five here. Hoffman and Henley. Henley's another guy. 112 points at this event last year. Can get absolutely hot with the irons. And his only problem, Eric, has been off the tee. So if that's going to be nullified this week, I really like this spot for Russell Henley. So, all right,
I got to play some golf with Russell Henley in Palm Springs at where did I play? We played two of the courses. So he was out there getting ready back when he got his tour card for the first time. He was out in Palm Springs, La Country Club. It's like the easiest golf course on tour. It's the lowest stroke average for everything. Pretty generous off the tee outside of number 2, which is a little bit of a tighter hole, but the guy was spraying it a little bit and shot 64. So that's what he does. He doesn't need to hit many fairways. He is unbelievable around the green. He's unbelievable with a putter. Almost everybody compared when you're out actually watching them, this is statistical analysis based on other PGA Tour golfers. So it's a little bit more concrete there, but just from what I've seen, I'm always a little bit of a mark and a little bit of bias towards playing him just because of that little run in that we had. But Charlie Hoffman makes a lot of sense. Taylor Gooch too. Shout out to our unofficial world golf rankings. I know I brought it up last week. I'm going to bring it up again. Number 37 in our unofficial golf rankings, as opposed to his number 70 ranking that he currently has. That's a large disparity. The guy is way better than people think he is. So when I talk about him being my favorite in the range, it's just because a lot of his stats, the things that we care a lot about here, turn advanced metrics. Taylor Gooch really sticks out. And not a guy that I think gets as much recognition as what he should. And considering on the season, so Russell Henley, 5th in strokes gained approach amongst the top 70 or amongst this entire field. Taylor Gooch is 6th in his last 50 rounds. That's a ridiculous amount of iron play to get at 7,100 and 7,200. So sign me up for both.
One note, thank you, chat, for bringing it up. I did see on Twitter today, congratulations to Harold Varner III, who had Harold Varner IV most recently. So do you buy into the baby swag, or is it too soon? Listen, I'm not getting much sleep. I know Harold's probably not getting a lot of sleep. Sometimes that can translate into some amazing golf, and sometimes it can translate into the worst golf that he's ever played. So where do you see him this week?
I mean, does he DGAF or does he not? I mean, it's like, or does he? Does he give a, or does
I
he
think
not
he does. I'm going to say he does. He's a new dad. I mean,
but I'm saying that, like, as far as like his golf game, which is what we're analyzing here, does he care about, as much practice and sleep, or does he not? Or I don't know. How do you analyze such a thing? And we've seen it work out wildly. I mean, Jack Nicklaus baby narratives going back forever. They would always talk about
Hunter Mahan baby narrative.
Hunter Mahan baby narrative. We had who was the other guy? Eric Van Rooyen just had a baby and then ends up going completely nuts here towards the end of the year. I don't know. It can work one way or the other. So it's like a birthday narrative. Like what are we trying to draw here? These are PGA Tour golfers who can afford a nanny, who can afford to do whatever the hell they want to do. Probably. Like whatever. Like if you want to draw a narrative off of it, he's a good play regardless, I think. So maybe we just play him because of that.
All right, let's finish our supply chain here and go into the customers. The last golfers that we're going to put in our lineup this week. Got a couple of them that I like. It's going to go down the board first, so it's probably going to work a little reverse. 6,200 KH Lee seems quite egregious. He's playing pretty good golf. 6,400 Cam Davis finally broke out of a mini slump last week and looked good in most categories, 27th. And Keith Mitchell missed on the number, but a guy that absolutely bombs the ball. He can score in such a flurry. Those will be the three biggest names placed for me down here this week. How about you?
Keith Mitchell, I can get behind a little bit. I don't mind that one. My biggest problem with him is he's 68th among strokes gained approach as well. In this,
not great.
We know he is a garbage putter. Very, very bad. Sung Kang shot 61 the first day. I'm not going to play Sung Kang.
Almost missed the cut too. Was 5 over at one point in his round on Friday.
I've got a guy that I'm having a tough time figuring out what I want to do, but I mean, Patton Kizzire. Is Patton Kizzire something that we can kind of start going back to? I mean, he's played awful to start the season. Shriner, Sanderson, Farms, but now you get a no-cut event, and maybe that can kind of change it back to the narrative. And we go back to like the Charles Schwab, the Byron Nelson. He can gain a ton of strokes gained approach at any point in time, and it comes out of nowhere too. It's almost like it just pops up. Valero, Texas Open, 8.1 strokes gained approach. Wells Fargo, 2.1. Byron Nelson, 6.5, Charles Schwab, 6.4. I mean,
we're talking about Schwartzel?
No, Patton Kizzire.
Patton Kizzire. Sorry.
Yeah.
Or Harris English or Hudson Swap. Anyways.
But I want to just like find guys who can get hot with the iron, 6-8 shots, something like that. If I'm going to play somebody under 7K, those are the kind of guys I really want to be taking shots in a no-cut event with, just because the upside is just immense if you can guarantee him. And then Schwartzel, 6,100. I think that's a misprice on Schwartzel. How about you?
Definitely showed up a little bit last week. Harry Higgs showed up a little bit last week, 6,100. Johnny Vegas is there. Got to play Vegas in Vegas, right? But how about another guy below 7,000 getting hot with his irons? I'm surprised you didn't mention Griot, Ben's guy. Maybe you were waiting till tomorrow night to see how much Griot Ben will have this week.
Yeah, I'm not going to have any. I don't want to play Griot.
None? Again, out.
Yeah, okay. 47th at Shriners and then 39th, and he's just terrible at putting and chipping, and I can't do him right now.
What about the chalk of last year, Brian Harman? I mean, the guy was always 18% owned, always making an eagle birdie in almost every cut that he made, it felt like. Now, below 7,000, this seems like it might be a good spot to jump back on.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't play him and you don't play Eric Van Rooyen, those are going to be your two, I think. Just looking at the board immediately. Let me see if our ownership kind of agrees. Yep, there we go. 9.6%. And what's the other one at? Brian Harman. Yeah, Brian Harman, 9.2%. Yeah, those are the two chalkiest pieces. KH Lee down there at 6,200, I suppose, as well. But under 7K, it just sticks out that Van Rooyen and Brian Harman would be your most popular. If you do anything else under 7K, you're going to probably be different and find a way to get some different builds. But they definitely stick out. I mean, Brian Harman is a lot better player than a sub 7K price tag. Obviously, that's because of the top heavy nature of this field. But I mean, he just outperforms everything. He just does it a little bit differently. That's the Ben Rosset take on him, is that, he ends up gaining strokes off the tee, even though he hits it absolutely nowhere. And then he's sublime around the green. So Brian Harman does it different than other guys do it, but that makes him still kind of an intriguing play. Under 10% still, I guess it's all right, but I'm probably going to scattershot more of the range and avoid those two larger ownership spots, him and EVR.
Yeah. As we bounce up the board really quickly, as we come to an end in our show, saw chat, want to get to all the questions there. First one was on Ty Hatton. We did actually speak at length about Ty Hatton, or what I'd consider at length about Ty Hatton a little earlier in the show. It seems like Eric is in amongst the golfers in his price range, but it seems like, I don't want to talk for you, Eric, it seems like both you and I would rather go down to the mid sevens unless we had the salary. If we don't need the salary, great. I would rather play Neiman. I'd rather play Wise.
I would rather play Taylor Gooch. I would rather play Charlie Hoffman. I would rather play Russell Henley. So those are kind of more of my stands for guys. I get it. And again, Tyrrell Hatton, I'm going to have the most of, I think, outside of Mark Leishman in this range. So, I mean, those are the two I like the most in the 8K range, but relative to the rest of the board, I like those two less than I like about 6 or 7 guys underneath 8K.
So it seems like as we get into a little bit of strategy here, it seems like mixing in a lot of those mid to low sevens with 3 golfers in the 9s or 2 above 10 seems like it's going to be our builds this week. You align there?
Yep, I'm absolutely aligned. And I'm playing a lot more of the ownership game. I think in no cut field events, that's kind of what I tend to do anyway. I kind of live and die by the sword of whatever these 20% chalk and 20% chalk guys end up doing. I'm usually half or just completely off of them. I think I'm leaning more on the being completely off of the DJ, Xander Schauffele, and Rory McIlroy kind of wagon, which isn't very comfortable. I mean, Rory can burn you any given week. We know that.
Especially when he can be 20+% owned.
Yeah, exactly. Not when he's 20% plus. It's just an easy stay away.
All right, last one, 2 guys. Sebastian Munoz, man, people have tried to make this guy happen in the last couple of weeks, and it's been DFL, I think, 2 of the weeks. But we don't have to worry about that. He's going to play all 4 rounds. Does he score enough this week to be valuable? And then next question, if you're going to play him, why wouldn't you just play Mackenzie Hughes, who is clearly a better putter?
Or, if you're going to play anybody at 6,100, just play Charles Schwartzel, who I think grades out the best out of everybody. So I think Charles Schwartzel at 6,100 would be my favorite. Again, I'm saying about a guy that I'm going to have almost none of either way. Sebastian Munoz, though, yeah, we've seen some scoring upside from him in the past, but coming off of 3 straight cuts, and it's just really, really looking bleak for him. I mean, the John Deere's the last time we saw a pulse for him. That was a 4th. That was back in July. I believe July. Yeah, July. But I absolutely think that Sebastian Munoz is going to be all right eventually. This is not eventually. I'm off.
Alex Noren, chat just brought him up.
Sure. Alex Noren does it a little bit different too. I mean, we see that over the
Similar
top.
to Harman,
we see the putter. Does it a little bit different. And I go back and forth with him because he's just such an elite putter. And I talk about it all the time with him. And that was his reputation coming off of the Euro Tour, coming into the PGA Tour, was just how unbelievable he can get with he kind of cuts across it a little bit, but it's something that when it gets in a groove, it's just ridiculous. And over the course of the last 50 rounds, #1 in strokes gained putting amongst everybody in this field. That's a large number to see. I mean, obviously there's some different data that goes into that, but Alex Noren, #1 in putting. We know he can get it going. The irons are just never really that sharp.
Never good. Yeah,
they're never really sharp. So it's tougher for me, but if you get him hot with the putter, which has been the case the last 2 times out during the FedEx Cup playoffs, wasn't enough to get him to the Tour Championship. But Alex Noren looks to
get his card back, though.
What was that?
Enough to get his card back, though.
Oh yeah. And
he was in that weird category for last year.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking maybe that's an all right guy. I'll take a deeper look into him, but phenomenal putters are never a bad thing in no cut events.
Kevin Kisner interest you at all?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that is Eric Van Rooyen. We talked about as being the chalk down here. I actually don't mind going back into him this week. We got a big price decrease, and ownership is definitely decreasing as well. So I want to bring him up. Okay. I think we got every question from chat. If we didn't, Make sure you hit us up on Twitter. You see our ads right there in the screen. DFS Golfer 23 for me, at Eric Lundquist for you. Next week, we've got the Zozo and the live before lock on Wednesday. Well, I have internal talks that it may actually be a true live before lock. Japan time, it's going to be like a 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time lock, so maybe a 9 p.m. show. I'm not going to be on it for the full time, but if that ends up happening, I will stop by. I can't miss a true live before lock. We get like 2 a week. But for anything else that breaks in the next 24 hours, check back in with you and Ben tomorrow. But Eric, anything else you want to part to our fans and friends here before we go?
You said like we only get it like twice in a week. I think you meant year.
Twice in a year. Sorry.
There we go.
I apologize.
That's all right. I said Gabriel, so it's all fair. When it all comes down
now
to
it's coming.
You win.
Now
that's
we're
what
saying
happens.
it. All right, fine.
We have inside jokes. Hey, everybody! I hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you back here on Live Before Lock that I'm doing with Ben tomorrow. Play that piano music, Jordan Klein, and of course, you're the man. Thank you so much for having me, Jason.
Later, guys. See you next week. Cheers.
Little fur release action. Never get.